Why do we place a higher value on someone after they've passed than when they were alive? And yes, most of us are guilty of this, generally speaking. This is a question I have been pondering away at for a very long time, to the point where it actually consumes me. I will not answer the question. I will leave that to you, the viewer, in comments below, because frankly, I think a discussion needs to be started at the very least on this subject at this time, because I find that most would simply make excuses. This has to stop. It came to me yesterday during a Twitter shit show, a rabbit hole that I crawled into. I'm not going to mention the names of these women in question. Enough has happened. But long story short, Eric, aka Driven Industries, was chastised left, right, and center for a live stream he did the day before yesterday. I found this shit show, to put it mildly, quite disturbing. Basically, other YouTubers, one in particular, was quite outspoken. They basically were dictating how the death of Desmond Amofa, aka Etika, should have been treated. No, we should not raise awareness in his name, they basically implied. The only appropriate response to these particular people was to just send condolences and prayers to the family and loved ones of Desmond. Not condemning it, and if you really mean that, why don't you find them and send condolences yourselves? Or if you can, make it to the funeral. But just pointing out an inconsistency, let's put it that way. Nothing more. Anything more than condolences and prayers, they felt, is just plain disrespectful. Also, what I didn't get was around the same time, there were tons and tons of other YouTubers with their videos offering no constructive value, at least not in my opinion. They were plastering this young man's faces on their video thumbnails. Some videos just more atrocious with the clickbaiting. One in particular who uploaded a video basically called Ouija Board at 3 a.m. Gone Wrong. Don't ask me the name of the channel. Not important. Not here nor there. Atrocities like that. Videos that make even Chris Booty of the Rewired Soul look like a guardian angel. And those of you who follow me on this channel know how I feel about this man. So for me to say that, you would know it's saying a lot. Anyway, these people continue to chastise Eric instead. Why? I ended up choking. I had uploaded a video that basically mirrored Eric's views, but I took some of them a little further. They never saw my video, or at least I don't think they did. Perhaps they didn't even know of its existence. This is a tiny channel. Flies under many people's radars. However, after the shit show, I ended up choking and unlisting the video on YouTube. And for what? I still stand by every word I said in that video yesterday. If anyone is interested, a link to that video is in the info card above. I was convinced by people in Eric's Discord server to relist the video, which I have done since. I think to myself, what is wrong with me? I contended with far worse when I was a political blogger, and as mentioned, trust me, having a political blog attracts a whole other kind of special in trolling. So this should have been easier to deal with, for lack of a better term. For openers, like it or not, Etika was a public figure. He had enough notoriety for his disappearance to be covered in the newsreels, as well as entertainment shows from the mainstream media. Mental health activists and organizations portray the lives and deaths of such pop culture icons, celebrities like Robin Williams, Anthony Bourdain, Chester Bennington, and Chris Cornell, to name but a few, to raise awareness on issues like suicide and or addiction, to attempt to lift the stigma of mental health. Why do they do that? It's because the inconvenient truth is that people worship celebrities. Yes, we place a higher value on celebrities, people who we've never met. We place a higher value on them than people in our own entourage, such as friends, family, or even a spouse in some cases. So, given that we as a society worship celebrities pretty much above all else, we would likely get behind a cause, or at the very least give it some consideration, given that celebrities or their names were behind it. Often more so than if there were no mention of these celebrities at all. It's for the same reason any YouTuber who wants to raise awareness to important causes may portray like someone like Desmond. Is it to get views like many accuse? Perhaps, but not for the same reason many like those people on Twitter yesterday seem to think. If one got no views, or very few, one's words are never heard, or the message does not get out. Awareness subsequently would not be raised. A discussion would not start. Views are not always about money or clout, or the race to get more subscribers, followers on social media. Yes, for many it is that way, but for a lot of us, it really isn't. Some of us just simply want to be heard without being interrupted or yelled over or ignored. How exactly is it disrespecting the memory of Desmond Amofa to raise mental health or suicide awareness in his name? Himself, he was publicly open about his own mental health issues, I learned recently. So those trying to raise awareness in his name are not smearing them. And if they are, I'd like to hear why. A valid reason, please. Can't say the same for others, like that sophomore channel of that 3 a.m. Ouija board thing gone wrong. Now let's talk hypocrisy. Notice that Keemstar, aka Drama Alert, has been raising money now for a mental health charity in Etika's name. Admirable, but anyone even remotely familiar with Keemstar's handiwork would be able to see through his hypocrisy. Or should I say apparent hypocrisy. He has been known to basically scoff at the mental health community. He also had Desmond on his show for an interview, where he was ridiculed in good old Keemstar fashion from everything I've heard. Now old Keemstar's on the Twitter machine debating whether or not to take down that video, but then he justifies himself by saying Desmond always wanted to be on his show. What a load of crap. Seriously. He may have wanted to be on the show, but I seriously doubt he wanted to be ridiculed. And Keemstar should have known he was in a vulnerable state, and instead he joined the pile-on of those ridiculing him in typical Keemstar fashion. Why the hell did he not show more respect to him when he was still alive? That's the better question. What gets me is how many will give Keemstar a free pass because he is offering to pay funeral expenses and or raising funds for a mental health charity. Also, a petition was circulating on Twitter asking YouTube to reinstate Desmond's channel to keep his memory alive. Well, where were those very same people when he was still alive? It also begs the question, how many of those lobbying YouTube to reinstate his channel were cyberbullying or ridiculing him or gawking at him themselves? You see how this goes? People ask how we could have seen this coming. Well, apparently the hints were all there, including his reported erratic behavior on various social media feeds. People watched it unfold. But why didn't they go further in expressing kindness or compassion for him back then? People can say all they like that people love to watch a train wreck. Terrible excuse, both figuratively and literally. In the literal sense, generally speaking, many follow the sirens or we stop to watch a car wreck. But how many in that crowd of gawkers actually roll up their sleeves, offering to lend a helping hand in any shape or form, even if it is simply to call 911 from their cells? The same is applicable online or even in our own environment amongst people we may know very well, even a friend or family member or a spouse. Yesterday, I alluded to the fact that we as a society respect and love people more after they are passed. I will elaborate more in this video. It is just too important, and I must point out the hypocrisy here, which is really my top pet peeve, to put it mildly. As a society, we mourn the loss of loved ones and celebrities we admire alike. Yet in life, we don't pay much attention to them. And no, I am not just talking about those with mental health issues who may have committed suicide, neither. It could be somebody who was killed by accident or somebody who passed on from a terrible disease. It is all applicable here. When a loved one dies, more often than not, we go to a lot of trouble not only to organize a funeral or a memorial service, but we go to the trouble to actually attend, especially if not local to where we live. We negotiate with our bosses from work for time off to attend the funeral. We go to the trouble to find out how to cover the travel expense to attend said funeral and make according travel plans. We hear them say more often than not, if only I had talked to them or listened to them. If only I had seen them in the hospital. Or if only I'd gone to spend one Christmas or celebrate their last birthday, etc., etc. Here's a thought. If we love them as we sadly profess to do when someone has passed, why the hell do we not go to the same lengths to see them, to spend time with them, quality time with them when they are alive? To spend time with them while one can enjoy their company. Why do we not try to help them when it matters the most? If we can go to all the trouble and find the time to attend the funeral, we should be able to put that time and energy and effort to spend time, quality time with these people while they are still alive. No? As a society, we need to do much better because we pretty much suck as a society right now. Speaking in generalities, we are too busy trying to keep up with the Joneses. And as a result, more often than not, many of us are discarded if we cannot elevate your status or look pretty and shiny on somebody's arm. Guess what, boys and girls? The Joneses are fucked up too. We barely acknowledge the most vulnerable or at risk in our midst, if at all, in the name of chasing material possessions and status and competing as to who is most beautiful. We should be doing the opposite and checking in on those who are marginalized, the lonely, the sick, the poor, the disabled. You might be surprised to find that some of us are probably the most empathetic and compassionate people you will meet, simply due to our own experiences, or our own experiences with being ostracized or left out, not fitting in. More likely than not, most likely to lend a helping hand or a sympathetic ear in times of crisis. What really gets me here is that there are people who were once marginalized, either for being poor or sick or all alone in the world somehow, get lucky and manage to become socially acceptable. They can get status. They forget where they came from. They lose their empathy. They drop the few old friends they had who stuck with them through thick and thin, the good, the bad, the ugly, when nobody else would. In the name of status symbols. So they choose the new fair weather friends who would likely drop them again in a New York minute once things go downhill in their lives, as they do much of the time. When their marginalized friend, whom they deem no longer good enough for them, passes due to any cause, they start crying about the regrets they had, or at least some who might have a trace of conscience. This means that the old discarded friend is of more value gone, dead, than alive, right? As mentioned, we live in a throwaway society, and I'm not talking throwing out material possessions in favor of newer, shinier, and more big-assed items neither, but the way we drop our friends and family simply because they no longer fit the mold. A little kindness, empathy, and love would indeed go a long way. It would go a long way not only to help somebody in need, but also to lift the stigma of mental health. And that is the biggest step. And it doesn't have to cost a cent neither. Wow, how's that for tricks? As mentioned, tragedies like that of Desmond, we can all learn lessons about humanity, and even perhaps, just maybe, we can become better people. That is, be a better friend, better family member, or better spouse for it. Also, it is to my understanding the family of Desmond and Mofa appear to be interested in raising awareness for mental health issues. Now, some can argue the semantics that they simply requested that we donate to mental health charities of our choice. All well and good. But an even bigger part of raising awareness does not cost a cent, as I just mentioned. And it's to not discard people. To not get rid of the attitude of superiority to others who seem less than perfect by societal standards. To lend that sympathetic ear. Simple, inexpensive acts incorporated in our daily lives would go a lot further than donating to some NGO that gives a huge chunk of donated funds to so-called administrative costs. And yes, I will do a video about that somewhere down the road. The problem with many charities. Hint, there is a problem when the CEO is making six figures. And it kind of taints their credibility just a tad, and that of their organization. But again, another video for another time. However, to many, we insist we must worship the dead and nothing more. But where is the worship for them when they are alive? I will leave you with this. Please, take care of yourselves and each other, and if there is somebody at risk or vulnerable or all alone in your midst, please take the time and make the effort to spend some quality time with them, to look into them. Maybe even a dinner or just a coffee. It would go a long way. Just show a little kindness. Thank you. Straight Talking Fedora Chick over and out.